This could be a chance for all three of the Watt brothers to unite here in Pittsburgh.
The locks for the Panama Canal, the propeller for Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis, rails for the Trans-Siberia Railroad, all were forged of Pittsburgh steel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Point, your one-stop shop for all things sports, straight out of IUP and brought to you by The Pen. We're back here once again this week with a lot on our agenda, as per usual. Brett and I joining you here today with our producer, Sean, in the studio. We are going to jump right on into it with a lot of news here surrounding J.J. Watt as a potential match for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. J.J. Watt, of course, being a longtime Houston Texan, having a lot of frustrations here this previous season. After they traded DeAndre Hopkins, and they really played terrible all throughout the season, and he just really wasn't it. Things weren't clicking down there in Houston as per usual. And now J.J. Watt this past week declared to become a free agent, having the Houston Texans release him. And now there are a lot of teams on the radar of J.J. Watt now, as he is one of the best, if not the best, pass rusher in the league, although we know how good T.J. Watt has been. So with the Steelers likely to lose Bud Dupree in free agency, given that the cap space is a big issue for a lot of teams right now. This could be a chance for all three of the Watt brothers to unite here in Pittsburgh. We've seen a lot of favoritism from J.J. Watt recently here to come to the Steelers potentially, or he was just simply cheering for the Steelers with how bad the Texans were. So this could really help the Steelers immediately find that match if they lose Bud Dupree. Now you have J.J. Watt and T.J. Watt together with some good depth as well. So there's a high possibility, although there are 12 teams interested here, including the Packers. But again, there are 12 teams here, and all of them kind of looking to shift cap, especially for the Steelers. So, Brett, I'm going to ask you a question here. Is J.J. Watt, he has the potential to come to the Steelers and play with his two other brothers. We know the Steelers haven't really performed as they should have recently. If you're in his position, do you think the Steelers are a good fit for him to be with his brothers, or do you think it's just all kind of hype and he should go elsewhere to get a Super Bowl ring, maybe in Green Bay?
If I was him, I would play with my brothers, but most people go with the money move, and he would have to take a pay cut to play with us. So,
of course, and with
I'm
being,
guessing he's going to go with the money.
And I mean, that's why I would say with him in his career, he's battled injuries all career long. And most recently, he was able to play 16 games the entire season finally. But he's battled injuries. He's getting up there in age. He would love to get a Super Bowl, being one of the best to ever rush the quarterback. You think he should still come to the Steelers, or obviously defense was not the issue, but do you think he has a chance to come here and win a Super Bowl ring in the next season or two?
I hope he comes here, but I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to go get his money elsewhere.
Of course. And he is definitely someone that is able to get that paycheck. So we will see as this happens. Of course, we want J.J. Watt to come to the Steelers, especially if they lose Bud Dupree. Juju Smith-Schuster also on the chopping block here, is a lot of people
he better stay. He better stay.
And again, it's all about these contracts. Can they take a team-friendly deal? So we will see as that moves forward. And there's a lot up in the air right now in free agency. Moving on to our second set of topics here for the day, we have a couple of things, four exactly, to throw out here about the NBA, as there's been a lot of news going on here recently. So Brett, as our great NBA analyst here, we have four topics we're going to throw at him, and we're just going to get some insight about things that are going on. So our first one, most recently, Kyrie and Harden have finally decided who's going to play point guard between the two of them. It's going to be James Harden. Brett, how do you feel about this move for the Nets?
Amazing. James Harden's a great point guard. people say Kyrie might be a little better point guard, but Harden's just so much taller that's a more versatile point guard right there. Like, he's going to be able to pass over taller people. He's going to be able to do a lot more than Kyrie can. And Kyrie, as a shooting guard, will be able to move off the ball a lot more. He's a little quicker than James Harden. So it's going to be a better position for him as well.
Awesome.
So it's going to work really well for the Nets. It's going to work out really well for them. I'm glad they figured that out, because I feel like that was the biggest tension at the start, is like, who's going to play what positions, who's going to have the most possessions on the ball. But it looks like they got it figured out.
And that's a great take on that, as they hope to make some moves here in the East, as things have not been so pretty for them to start off. But switching sides now into the Western Conference here, as we know, recently here with LeBron James having a flopping incident against the Grizzlies, and this was a great game for the Lakers nonetheless, as they were down 22-2 in the first quarter, but they were able to come back and rout a win here. But nonetheless, I believe it was the fourth quarter, LeBron made shoulder touching contact.
This was a bad one.
Yeah, with Dylan Brooks of the Grizzlies. LeBron falls on the ground, he flops back, and they end up fouling Dylan Brooks. Now, LeBron was given a warning in this. Brett, what do you think about this? Obviously, you do what you can for your team.
Warning and everything. That was a complete flop. A lot of stars do it, but that one was just, oh my God! Like,
now, because we talk about the stars in the NBA, if this is somebody that isn't a star player like LeBron James, do you see them getting fined instead of a warning?
No, I feel like they're still just going to get the same warning that LeBron got. I don't think there was any favoritism or anything like that.
Well, let's hope we don't see too much more of it, because, of course, given a warning, but who knows? It's LeBron James. Not much that I think the league is going to do.
He flops a good bit. All stars.
Well, we will see. And speaking of other stars here, as we shift over to the rookie race that is going on, and not so much of a race as we've talked about, as LaMelo Ball.
Not too much of a race.
LaMelo Ball averaging 13.8 points.
Kind of a race, but LaMelo has 6 double-doubles, 1 triple-double. Tyrese Hamilton has none of those. He has the points per game a little, but he doesn't have rebounds and assists like LaMelo does. And then that's part of the game as well. And LaMelo's surprisingly great on defense. Everyone, whenever he first joined the league, was doubting him. And he's become a little bit of an underdog. Like, I enjoy how he plays, and I'm glad they actually finally started him on the Hornets. And then Anthony Edwards, he's in third place, but he's so inconsistent of a player. He's great, but one night he'll go off, another night he'll have like 4 points. He's good, but he's not even part of it.
Well, just to give you a kind of scope of things here, because as we look at the rookie race, the NBA likes to give you what they're at and what they have done recently. So LaMelo Ball averaging 13.8 points per game, 5.9 rebounds, 6 assists, but recently 24.8 points per game, 6.3 rebounds, 6.5 assists. Now we look at Tyrese Halliburton for Sacramento, 11.9 points per game on the year. Most recently, 19 points per game, so a bit more offensive production. And we look at Anthony Edwards averaging 14 points per game on the year, and most recently 16.3. So not as big of a jump as we've seen with LaMelo and Tyrese Halliburton. But nonetheless, we look at this rookie race as it moves forward. Now, the final point here of the NBA, Giannis Antetokounmpo quoting that the Jazz are the best team in the West. Brett, what do you take for this?
Boo. Giannis doesn't know what he's talking about. Lakers are the best team in the West. He's talking nonsense there. Just because he got whooped by the Jazz, he's just like, oh, they're the best team in the West now. They're not.
Well, and then you hear it here. I mean, again, he was kind of, and it's interesting to say this too, as we talked about before the show, that Giannis' brother plays for the Lakers. So you think he'd at least kind of give his brother some love there. But nonetheless, he kind of just said that the Jazz look like it's simple. They're having fun out there. He said they look like
I think
them last year.
Angry that his brother got a championship before him.
That's a good point. That's actually a really good point, as he shows some favoritism
angry about that.
to Utah. So we will see. As we've talked about previously here, it is likely going to be the Lakers moving forward, but not what Giannis thinks. So those are some of our takes here on the NBA. As Brett gave you his thoughts, let us know what you guys think. A lot going on there recently. Moving on to our third topic here today, we're talking about the FCFL. If you have not heard of it, the Fans Choice Football League was launched this weekend on Saturday, a 6-week league with 4 teams that have various owners, including Quavo and Marshawn Lynch. Very interesting here is we have a kind of spring football, which we've seen the last couple of years. We had the AAF and then the XFL, which unfortunately just couldn't keep it together, especially with the XFL with COVID. But we have a 7 versus 7 football league for 6 weeks with power-ups, with some referees that are wearing pink, I guess, polos, you'd say, that don't know the team names and are out there potentially blowing games, as we saw with Richard Sherman's team, unfortunately losing it. But we have the teams here as being the Glacier Boys, the Zappers, the Beasts, and the Wild Aces. The Wild Aces and Beasts each picked up a win over the weekend. But Johnny Manziel taking a return to the field, that's something interesting that football fans can look into. But as we here at The Point kind of looked at back at this, especially our producer Sean and I, we kind of looked at it. It just wasn't, I mean, it's kind of a cool idea here that they're putting together, but the production value just really wasn't there from the FCFL, as there was a lot of cutting in and out with the camera feeds. They weren't so good. The feed, the offensive feed, you're looking down from back behind the offense instead of from the side. So they were just kind of trying to do way too much. It felt here. They had a ref cam. You could watch the referee talk to the opposing coach when he's putting there. I mean, Brett, I'm not sure if you tuned in or not here, but the FCFL, the fan choice. What do you feel of this? The fans are choosing the plays that these 7 players are doing.
The 2 things I'll say about it actually is, hey, if you got that dad that yells at the TV constantly, show him this, and you'd be like, hey, now you can pick the plays, the right ones that you say. And then I heard they only had 2 coaches, and they were
so the coaches are swapping between games.
That's so absurd. That doesn't make sense. That ruins the competitiveness. The coach is like, oh, well, I was just on this team. Now I'm going to play on this team. Like, what team does he actually want to win? Because I'm guessing there has to be probably playoffs or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, 6 weeks for it. There's a lot of uncertainty, as we heard the announcers say that this
6 weeks, or do they go into playoffs?
I believe it's going to be, of course, there's going to be some sort of champion in this. But as the announcers were saying, they're just going to adjust this as they go every week, because there was one of the games completely blown. Richard Sherman's team, which I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember exactly which team it was for him. I know the Wild Aces got the win. I believe they beat it was the Glacier Boys. Quavo and Richard Sherman are the owners of the Glacier Boys, but there is a power up that you can do that you invoke the 5th down. So you can't do it 4 times. So we get the 5th down, and they wanted to use their 5th down, but instead the referee was just like, no, the other team gets the ball, practically his words. And Richard Sherman was quite angry because his team could have potentially scored a touchdown, but
they didn't follow their own rules.
Yeah, so nonetheless, the announcers didn't really know what to say. There's going to be some adjustments, but I mean, this is some spring football for us. It was a weird production. We'll see moving forward. But the FCFL, if you really want to get into this, you can join a team, you can call the plays. And like Brett said, if you are the one to scream at the TV and think that you are better than the offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators, get right at it. So we'll look at the next week with the Fans Choice Football League. Tune in to find out for yourselves on Twitch. So moving on to the IUP Sports Realm, once again, we have swimming in the discussion here today, as Claire and Paige Mixell each made their NCAA Division II-B qualifying times this weekend, as the women's swimming team beat Gannon by a score of 178-79 on Saturday, as unfortunately it was a split meet, as the men's team fell 143-117. Claire registered her time in the 200 breaststroke with a time of 2:19.57, and Paige qualified her time in the 200 butterfly with a mark of 2:02.91, her 3rd NCAA Division time of the year. Up next, IUP will face off against Gannon again as their 4th and final match of the shortened season next week, so stay tuned for that. And switching over to IUP women's tennis, unfortunately, the Hawks dropped their season opener to Youngstown State by a score of 7-0 on Saturday. This was their first match since March 12th of 2020, so great to be back on the court. But nonetheless, this was the first of 4 Division I opponents that they will face to open the season. Up next, they will face Bucknell on February 28th, so they will hope to capture victory there, and we look forward to seeing the results of that match. So that's all we have for you today here at The Point. We hope to hear your insights about what you think about TJ Watt and JJ Watt reuniting potentially on the Steelers. All of the various NBA topics that we talked about here, especially LeBron flopping. That's one that I would like to hear some responses for. And of course, the FCFL. If you guys want to tune into that, make sure to do so. The games will be on Saturdays and you can choose the plays moving forward. So that's all we have from you here at The Point today on our Tuesday, our fourth show here. From Riley and Brett and our producer, Sean, we'll see you next week.